Sylvia and me.
Sylvia and
Sylvia and me. Sylvia and
Sylvia and me.
Sylvia.
When I watched the women boogie boarding and I saw this over and over, the word came to me, unruly. Like there's an unruliness to this play that women deserve and that we aren't really offered at other stages in our life.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Beckerman, host of the podcast series Sylvia and Me. Conversations with inspiring, empowering women.
Hi, I'm Caroline Paul. I am the author of 7 books. Most recently, I wrote Tough Broad, From Boogie Boarding to Wing Walking, How Outdoor Adventure Improves Our Lives as We Age. I'm an outdoor adventurer from a long time ago, and I'm super psyched to be here on Sylvia and Me to talk about it.
Caroline, welcome. I am so thrilled to have you here with me today. And yes, outdoors, adventure. I want to go back to something that you did a TED Talk in 2017. And one of the things that you talked about was the fact that you were for some reason, were very much enthralled by getting into the Guinness Book of World Records. And you said you didn't have a skill, so you came up with something, crawling. And it's the reason why I bring it up is because, you know, when we think of adventure, we think of outdoors, we don't, and we think of things that you've done, we don't always think of just going outdoors and getting past a little bit of our comfort zone. But that doesn't mean that we have to do some of the things that you've done, which what's it called? Not paragliding. What did you do?
Paragliding.
Paragliding.
Was a
Okay.
paraglider for many years.
And your one wheeler and all the other stuff. Plus, you were one of the first female firefighters in San Francisco out of thousands of firefighters. So you do live on the cusp of adventure. If not, you jump right into it. What I want to do is, one of the things that you have talked about, you know, we think about going past our comfort zone. We think about being brave. What do you consider brave? What are the components of being brave?
Well, one of the components of being brave often is being scared, but pushing past that. There's nothing wrong with fear. I actually, I don't know if I understood fear when I was younger. I was somebody who, you know, was on a whitewater rafting team that did first descents. I was the first to bike pack through the Bolivian Andes in the 80s. Like there were a lot of things where there was a lot of unknown. And so with that comes some fear. But the cool thing about fear is it's it's a flag. You're supposed to look at it. I do, but I don't often let it dictate everything. And that's where bravery comes in. So bravery is the exploratory spirit, the willingness to push past comfort zones, which could be physical or emotional. And because knowing that there's really going to be a reward on the other side. Sometimes you do bravery for bravery's sake because the feeling is so satisfying when you upend your own expectations of what you can and cannot do. And that's why I'm really, I love outdoor adventure, and I've been recommending it to, obviously in my book, The Gutsy Girl, to girls and boys, but for girls, it's just less at hand. And also now I've been wondering about it in my older age as I was approaching 60 and I didn't see women around me who were being adventurous. In other words, sort of employing bravery, maybe. I would be on a surfboard and I didn't see any women my age, or definitely not older. A lot of men my age and older. And I know there's a lot of women who surf much better than me. And it's not that they're not out there, it's just that there are hardly any, and I would rarely see them, especially in the winter and the swell that I would go in. And yet I knew that I was not a very good surfer. I'm a good paddler, when I was on my skateboard, I saw no other women on skateboards. and I fly experimental planes, and very few women fly experimental planes, and planes in general. It's about, I can't remember the statistics, still way less than men. And there's lots of older men. So I was curious, why aren't women out there? Is there something I should know about getting older? What is my own fulfilling aging going to look like? So this book is kind of a quest. And what I found was brave women. But when I talk about bravery, doesn't mean you have to fly a gyrocopter, doesn't mean you have to get on a skateboard, and it doesn't mean you have to get on a surfboard in winter swell. It's whatever your comfort zone is.
And that's exactly it. It's the everyone's own definition of bravery. And you talk about not only physical, but emotional, because sometimes our emotional fear stops us from doing something physical.
Well, especially women, because I think we're not taught, and I looked at this a lot when I was writing The Gutsy Girl. We're not taught to embrace bravery when we approach situations like boys are. Boys are encouraged to be brave. It's part of sort of the myth of being male, that, you know, you're brave, you're honorable, you're noble. But for women, we're taught to be afraid. And the reason is because our parents think that that will protect us, that if we're afraid, we will not walk down that dark alley, we will not talk to that stranger, and we will not hurt ourselves. But I push back against that and say, no, that actually is a recipe for not having confidence, listening to others before you listen to yourself, and not learning risk assessment in any area of life, which is pretty constant. And I mean that in a good way. And so I want to encourage bravery in a girl's life because I feel like that protects her more. And the thing about not being well versed in the feelings of bravery is you often don't recognize when you're actually about to go on something really cool, because fear for girls has always been a signal to stop and to not do it because it's somehow bad. And really, fear is just a flag. It's just one thing you should look at. And also the physical attributes of fear, like, you know, the heart, the racing heart, the sort of prickles on the neck, the little sweat, the anxiety, is very close to exhilaration. And exhilaration is something we should all be looking for in our life. So that's why I want people to practice bravery, because then they understand that thin line and their life opens up. I can't tell you how many people, when I was interviewing them, who had embraced an outdoor activity later in life, said to me, well, let's say in particular, when I went to interview these boogie boarders in San Diego, they were between the ages of 60 and 97. And I was interested in boogie boarding, which is when you just go in the water with a small sort of cafeteria tray and you ride a little whitewater in. You could ride big waves, but in this case, they were just riding. It's a very simple activity. And one woman said to me, boogie boarding changed my life. And even now, when I say it, it gives me kind of goosebumps because, well, first of all, boogie boarding changed your life? Like, isn't it just this kind of hobby that 10-year-olds do? And the answer is no, because when you get in the cold Pacific Ocean like they were, and you get on a wave that tumbles you around and you're having fun with other people, you are pushing your comfort zone. Everything that you've been told about older age goes out the window. Your bones aren't frail. You know, you're not on a cognitive decline. You're making all these decisions moment to moment, and you're having fun, like you're vitalized. And so, yeah, these going outside and exploring is really key at any age, but something that falls away as women age.
Well, that's the thing. We have this misconception of aging. We have all of these products and all of this talk about anti-aging. And then we have this pro-aging. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, you know, every day we're older than we were the day before. And every day there are new opportunities for us to do something different, to try something, whether it's going out and, as you've talked about, it's not just going out and boogie boarding in the cold water, but maybe it's bird watching. Maybe you never, you know, it's just going out and doing something that you've never done before that exhilarates you. And you've talked about it's not adrenaline, it's the exhilaration that really makes us feel something. And that's what we're looking for. And it's not bravado, it's bravery. And you talk about being curious, brave, and being in the present. And that is something that a lot of us, especially women, don't realize, that being in the present is where we really need to be. And what a great thing to just be able to go out and try something that maybe we've seen on, I don't know, TikTok or some. There are some things we do not want to copy that we see on some of these social medias, but we're not talking about everyone going and jumping out of an airplane.
No, I
Um,
mean, at all. I mean, because that's not where people's exploratory spirit lies. But people do ask me like, oh, well, what about joining a book club? What about learning a new language? What about working out in the gym? Like all those are great. I mean, I'm all for, that they all expand our lives. But what I say about going outside is that it in one single swoop, go bird watching or go scuba diving or snorkeling or learn to swim. In one fell swoop, it covers what I consider the important pillars of aging, which is community,
mhm.
novelty, purpose, health, and then finally that positive mental outlook on aging, which is so vital, which really surprised me. The science behind that, can I just back up and say, was just
Of course.
eye-opening, is that the way we look at our own aging predicts how well we age. So if someone has a negative view of aging, the research shows that you have a higher chance of getting a cardiac event earlier and cognitive decline earlier. The opposite is true. If you have a positive view on your own aging, then you will live healthier and 7.5 years longer, which is a lot.
It's a,
And I mean, and you'll be healthier. So, and more fulfilled. So the question then was, well, how do you get that positive view on aging? It's all fine and good to say have a positive view, but given the messaging about aging for women, that's hard. And my antidote is to get outside in an activity because, again, as I said, in one fell swoop, it really does knock down all those messages that we get about what our aging is going to be. Most significantly, boring. It's
well,
not,
yes.
so, but definitely, that you're too frail, that you're too, not mentally capable. It's like, no. And every woman that I talked to exhibited like, this vitality. So yes, joining a book club will offer community and novelty, but it doesn't offer the physical vitality that is so important to us as we age. And learning a language, novelty, but not so much community maybe so basically I really urge the medicinal properties of getting outside.
Is huge.
Huge.
Huge. Just going outside and breathing in the air, maybe not in Los Angeles, but going outside and having that the wind hit you, even if it's raining outside. I mean, there's just so much to be had, and we get so much and we don't realize that. It's just the simple things.
And it's just,
Again,
I mean, it's biological. We're not like, oh, I feel so, it's not woo-woo. There is
no.
science that says that birdsong affects your brain waves, that the architecture of outside, the soft, rounded sort of horizon lines and the fractal nature actually fits well with the architecture of our eyes, so that when we process the outdoors, there's less busy work and noise. And so our brain is just dealing with what we want to deal with instead of all the other loud noises, hard architecture, which is really tiring for our brain. So they've shown that after a walk outside, you test better on cognitive tests. Your memory is better. And that's because you've rested your brain, oddly. I mean, you're still thinking, but you've rested it from all that extra stuff.
Well, one of the people that you talk about is your mom, who took up cycling when she was in her 60s.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this subliminal messaging and how I looked around and all my friends were so disheartened about aging, and I wasn't. And the reason was because I had my own subliminal messaging, and that was my mom. And she blossomed as she aged. And so in her 40s and 50s, she started blossoming. She became so much happier. And then at 60, she had a sort of inflection point in her life where she had split with her longtime boyfriend and she moved to a new town. And this happened a lot. Like people made decisions based on sort of these weird moments, like during the pandemic or the loss of a loved one. And in her case, it was in a new town and she had to, she was no longer with her boyfriend. So she decided, oh, well, I guess I'll join this bicycling group. And she didn't know how to bike. I mean, she had biked as we all had, and she had a bicycle, but she just wanted a distraction. And it turns out that it changed her life.
And that's the thing. She tried something different and she put herself out there. And as you said, it changed her life. It changed her outlook. And people are afraid of getting out of that comfort zone, especially as they age. And you've done the research and the women. So tell me, who out of the women that you talk about in your book, who amazed you the most?
I mean, they all amazed me.
I know
mean,
that.
for
I know.
different
I want,
reasons. Well, I mean, I'll give you just some thumbnails. I interviewed Virginia Rose, who's in a wheelchair and has been since she was 14. And she was getting outside and bird watching. And I was interested because I wanted to know how we can adapt our bodies. Because a lot of people say, oh, I'm just not fit enough to go outside. Well, Virginia Rose is in a wheelchair. And she's bird watching. And when I went bird watching with her, which was an amazing experience, because I didn't think bird watching was an adventure. Turns out it is. You have the quest, you have the exhilaration, you have the, stretches of boredom and the physical vitality. Because I walked, she wheeled 6 miles. It was a bird-a-thon, it turned out. A thon, like a marathon. And we saw 52 bird species. But anyway, so to me, that was so heartening. Like she's just showing how the outdoors is accessible to almost all of us. I was also really, I was interested in what happens as we age and how outdoor experience can help us through it. So I talked to Alona Aguayo, who had lost her husband fairly recently, and we went sea kayaking together because she did that 3 times a week in order to grieve. It was something she used to do with her husband. I actually was in his sea kayak. It was a very mellow, just in the marina, but she had to relearn so many things that now that her life had abruptly changed, like it can as we age, like is one of our fears. And that process of becoming an individual, like redefining herself without her partner through kayaking, because she had to relearn how is she going to take her kayak. She's a pretty small woman, almost 70. How is she going to take her kayak to the marina? So she built herself a little kayak rack right there because she's like, Louie's not here anymore to carry them into the truck. So, and then, she wanted to drive their RV to trails so that she could keep hiking. She had to learn how to drive an RV and dump all the sewage. And she did it through looking at videos. But that process of those steps, I had kind of come to her to see, like, how does outside, help you grieve? And what I saw was it was almost the steps to get outside that were really giving her the confidence to embrace life again. And of course, getting outside. I mean, over and over. I mean, I also was with Sean Brokeman, who was a base jumper. None of us will base jump. Do not base jump.
No, I read about base jumping. No, I'm sorry, not happening. And Sean said she was afraid of heights.
Yeah, she was hilarious, but yet she knew that when she acted. So base jumping, for those of you who don't know, is when you launch
yourself.
You jump off a cliff. But I used to jump off cliffs with my paraglider, but I would inflate it before I jumped and look, okay, it's all good. And then I would run off the cliff like a hang glider. But she jumps and falls. That's what they love. And then she'll throw her chute after whenever she's about to, see the ground. And it's one of the most dangerous sports in the world. It was the one sport I did not do in the book, by the way. I know I'm very accident prone, but what I was she started that late. I mean, she started, I think when she was 40. She didn't even have an outdoor life before 40. She's African American, and the outdoors has always been very unwelcome to African Americans, people of color in general, and women. And I was interested in that and how we could, re-embrace what is really our heritage, going outside. And so Sean was an example of someone who, despite the fact she had no personal role models, people of color that she knew who base jumped, she and her husband became base jumpers. So, I mean, really everybody, what I was really amazed by, again, was no matter whether you had been in the outdoors all your life or you started late, which most of these women did, going outside took courage. Sometimes not a lot. When I interviewed Vijaya Srivastava, her doctor told her she needed to exercise. Now, she could have gone to the gym, but it just so happened she had a pool, an outdoor pool right near in her condominium. And her doctor said, why don't you use that pool? And Vijaya said, I don't know how to swim. I'm 68. I do not know how to swim. And I've never had an outdoor life ever. Nothing. No walking. Maybe she'd walk with her coworkers, she said, to lunch, but that was it. But she has a great sense of fun. And when her doctor said, you really need to, change some of these numbers, your blood pressure, et cetera, you should learn to swim. And she thought, okay, it looked like fun. She'd seen kids in there. So she enlisted a friend and she learned to swim, which to me I admired her so much, because on so many levels, that is so huge, because swimming is scary for everybody when you first do it. But she did it at 68 and now she's a swimmer. And I went swimming with her, and it was, she swims with joy. And so this is what was amazing. Not only that she took that step, which I think she viewed as, well, it was a big step, but her doctor said it, again, an inflection point. But when she started swimming, she realized, oh, well, I can do this. What else can I do? And it began this whole domino effect at 68 of trying other things. That was magical.
Well, that's the thing. And we'll go back to the fact that we're living a lot longer. We're living a lot healthier in so many ways. We usually put all these stops on ourselves. Society tells us we're not supposed to be working, we're not supposed to be this, we're not supposed to be that. And if you're a woman, you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to. And when we're brought up, most of us to be very cutesy and let other people do things, because we're not supposed to be really out there. And it's so against everything that we should be doing. We should be outside. We should be pushing ourselves. And it's a leap of faith that we have to go beyond our comfort level. We have to go beyond and kind of break that barrier that we've been taught. So, for our whole lives. Yes, there are women who from a very young age are out there doing things, but that's a minority of women. So when you were writing this book, I know that one of the things that got you started was the fact when you were doing certain things, like you said, when you were surfing, you didn't see a lot of women your age out there doing it. So why did you think it was so important to do this research and put this out there? Or was it because you were curious about it, you found the research and said, this is an important message to get out?
Well, I was 55, so I was thinking, like, what was my own aging going to be like? And I wanted outdoor adventure in my life. And this book really was a quest. I did not know a lot of the information, but when I was going to just throw myself and start asking women older than me how outdoor adventure, made their aging fulfilling. And I the pandemic hit. So now nobody wanted to talk to me because we were all in lockdown and it was unsafe. So I had to do a lot of research. So I did a lot of research on fulfilling aging. And when I went, and so by the time I did my first interview, I had a real sense of what I would need to keep in my life. And I wanted to see how outdoor adventure fit into that. And I want to say that we emphasize the comfort zone part, and I think it's very rewarding when we push our comfort zones. But the thing about getting outside is you can actually flip that. Like, that's going to happen naturally. Getting outside is the draw. Like, it's cool. It's not a chore. What I was really aware of is we take pharmaceuticals like at the drop of a hat when our doctor says it, despite the long list of side effects that say how are we going to suffer for it. So consider like the comfort zone part just a side effect. Yes, you will probably be pushing your comfort zone initially when you say yes to someone who wants to go on a walk outside or wants to go bird watching or even wants you to maybe take swim lessons or start boogie boarding. But don't look at it that, like, don't think we focus on that, like, oh my God, it's going to be so hard. But in fact, this is medicine, because I guarantee you just doing that, saying yes, is going to open up so much. So while it is about upending your own expectations, when we focus on that and are really heavy about that, I think it becomes very daunting. But really think of it as a pharmaceutical for you.
Well, the other thing is as you just said, we do focus a lot on getting out of our comfort zone. How about if we just go outside and start taking a walk, which we say we're always going to do, and before you know it, maybe instead of going 2 or 3 miles, you're going 5 miles. Instead of walking slowly, all of a sudden you've picked up the pace. And we
Right.
don't even realize it before, it's not a question of here's my goals. You don't need to set a goal, because without even thinking, you're doing it because all of a sudden you're feeling good.
Yes, exactly. There's a seamlessness to it. I mean, I think that that's kind of the beauty of it. Like, I think that when Lorraine Voigt went into the water with a boogie board, she was not, she just, it was kind of like a what the heck moment. It wasn't, I'm going to become a better person.
You mean all these lofty ideas that we're supposed
Yeah,
to have?
exactly. A lot of that doesn't
What are
motivate
we
us.
leaving on this earth today? Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, honestly, here's the thing. It's fun. Like, boogie boarding was a great example. It doesn't take any skill to boogie board. All the boogie boardies told me that. Takes no skill. You don't even have to be fit. Just come on in. And that very simplicity made it so fun. And what I watched was women at play, which is very unusual, because not only do many adults, we think play is like way too, it's for kids and we don't have time. Actually, play is really, really important for us. And there's lots of different types of play. And I talk about it in the book. There's lots of studies on play, but keep play in your life. And and I wanted to say one more thing, Sylvia, because this is really important. The women who were older than me, is almost everybody, told me the 60s were the best decade of their life. Not the 20s, not the 30s, the 60s. So we gild youth, but the truth is, at least for the women I talked to, and including my own mom, the 60s were the amazing, exploratory, exhilarating part of their life. And it makes sense. We're at this intersection of, we have so much life experience, we know who we are, we are unencumbered by a lot of things if we're lucky. So it's a great time of our life.
It's a fantastic time.
Thank you. And the fact that people like my friends were disheartened by it, and I hear it all the time. Like, I'm not going to tell you my age. I'm 60. I'm almost 61, and I'm psyched. Like, I have my best decade is about to unfold.
Your best decade is about to unfold, and then the next one gets even better.
Right.
Just keeps getting better and better, and people don't understand that.
Just as my bird watcher said, she has this great quote where she told me, unearth your inner explorer. She is your best self. And I love that. It's just an exploratory mindset. You don't fly a gyrocopter. Please don't base jump. Don't scuba dive. You don't have to worry about that. Just step outside and with an exploratory mindset and see what happens, because nature, the outdoors is important. And by the way, it's disappearing. So we have to grab it and while we can.
And that's absolutely, that is so important, and people don't understand that. You don't have to have a goal. You don't have to, jump off whatever. You just have to take that one small step and go out.
And
One
you don't have to be
small
good at
step
it.
for man. That's it.
Wait, yes. And don't be good at it. Like, I have purposely interviewed people who were not famous, who did not. One person that I interviewed, an orienteer, who she does this sport called orienteering, where you run with a map and compass. We actually walked, thank God. But she was a champion runner. But pretty much, and Miss Kitty, who was a BMX bike racer at 74, she's the oldest BMX bike racer, and she has some definitely some trophies to her name, but nobody was like, you don't have to be good. And luckily at our age now, we don't care about that. I don't care, and I used to care, but I don't care.
And as women, we really need to get out there and take care of ourselves and have fun doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, when I watched the women boogie boarding, and I saw this over and over, the word came to me, unruly. Like, there's an unruliness to this play that women deserve and that we aren't really offered at other stages in our life.
There's a great commercial. I forget what it's for because it doesn't really matter. There's 3 older women. They're sitting on a bench, and it's wintertime, and they're watching the kids sledding. And one of the friends comes back with 3 cushions, hands it to each one of them. They take, whether it's a big disc or whatever, they put the cushions down on the disc so they're a little bit more, they're patting their backsides actually, and they're laughing and they're going down with the kids, and they're sledding. I mean, that's what we need to do. We just need to get on our ass and just move on out and get out there and not let a friggin' number stop us. Yes.
Well, I mean, I want to say that people have said age is just a number. I don't know. I mean, I really think 60, it signifies a certain emotional intelligence, a
Yes,
certain
it does.
physical health. There is something to it. I'm not and by the way, no one I interviewed wanted to be younger, and I don't want to be. Who wants to be insecure and anxious about what people think, and uncertain about your future?
We have to get beyond it. There are people who have health issues, and they work around it. One of the women you had was in a wheelchair. I know that my late cousin was in a wheelchair, and she was skydiving. I mean, she wasn't letting anyone, she skydive. I don't know whether she went scuba. I think so. But she wasn't, she was younger. She wasn't letting that stop her. And we shouldn't let the fact that we are getting older than we were yesterday stop us from getting healthier, because it's a healthy thing to do, as the science has shown, to get outside.
Yes. I mean,
you can stay inside anytime at night, when you're sleeping, but to get outside and just take that first step.
And pay attention, just go outside and just be present to being outside, and wonderful things are going to happen.
Caroline, if you had one thing you wanted to tell someone, I know we've talked about, you've had a lot of things that you've said. If you had one thing to tell women who are turning 50, who are turning 60, going on, what is it that you want to tell them?
I want to repeat it because I said it before, but I think it bears repeating, that the way you look at your own aging will it predict actually how well you age. So let's pick an optimistic view of aging, because, we have less time than we did before. And when you pick an optimistic view of aging, that it's a time of vitality and exploration, that will happen.
And who knows, we might even be more vital and have more vitality than we did before because we don't have so much stopping us from doing it. Where can people find out more about you?
I can be found on the internet, but I have a website, carolinepaul.com, and I'm on Instagram, Caroline MB Paul, Michael, as in Michael Bravo Paul. I'm easy to find. Say hi to me.
It's Tough Broad, from boogie boarding to wing walking, how outdoor adventure improves our lives as we age. Everyone get outside. Caroline, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sylvia. It was really fun.
You can find us on all of your popular podcast platforms. And of course, our website, sylviaandme.com. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, stay tuned.